Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're going over gaming news consolidated. This is March 30th through April 5th, and boy, what a busy week. This is, this whole program is basically to watch videos, read articles, and put it all in one place for you, of basically what's going on in the gaming industry, and we cover PC, Steam, Nintendo, of course, this week, PlayStation, and Xbox, and basically anything else that's going on with different companies or changes of leadership, video games, all of that kind of stuff. We cover a bunch of it here. Of course, I do have to consolidate it and condense it down a little bit. I can't cover absolutely everything, but that is generally the goal. So what we're going to be talking about today is Tony Hawk Remaster. Some people have some issues with the audio. We're also going to talk about the God of War TV show. We're also going to go over Digital Foundry's findings with PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro in a VRR issue with stuttering. This is actually kind of interesting, and I wonder if Sony will be able to fix it. We're also going to talk about some layoffs. We're also going to take some time to talk about an update for Monster Hunter Wilds, how Atomfall launched. We're going to talk, too, about why it's not necessarily a good idea for these publishers and why they're pushing to be multi-platform and not be exclusive. We're going to talk about Silent Hill F. That was kind of banned, but not really. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to take a look at FragPunk. That's actually released on Steam already. And then, this is a big one. We're also going to talk about the EU increasing some of their standards for MTX, especially on children's games. We're also going to talk about the Legend of Zelda movie that's being made. Going to talk about some remasters that are coming, and also Night Dive Studios and wanting to do more. We're going to talk about PlayStation Plus, and then we're also going to go over some Night Rain stats that I was able to be a part of. I got an email showing kind of just some stats for the whole thing. And then, the Switch 2 Direct and the whole price thing, and oh my word, this is going to be a long one. So anyway, like, sub, all that jazz, let's go ahead and get started. So the Tony Hawk 3-4 remasters, they don't have all the original soundtracks. Now, people were initially pretty upset. Some people were thinking, oh, it's licensing or whatever. But Tony Hawk actually hopped online and started discussing that it was really his decision. They came to him. He was part of the process of getting these remasters done. And he purposefully just wanted to choose some different soundtracks from the same bands. And that's really it. It wasn't like a Microsoft decision. It wasn't a corporate problem. It wasn't couldn't find a solution with licensing or something for these bands. Basically, just wanted to pick different soundtracks. And so we have some old ones, of course, and we have some new ones. And so, that's kind of neat. So I think when we understand that the reason for the change, I think people will be more susceptible and accepting of that, instead of just being like, oh, corporate, rah, 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 which I totally understand. Yeah, corporatization can be pretty frustrating sometimes. The release date of Tony Hawk 3-4 Remaster is July 11th. This is also going to be on Game Pass Ultimate Day 1, and this is also coming to PlayStation 5. So everybody's going to be able to enjoy this. Also, saw too that with the Nintendo Switch Direct, it's also coming to Nintendo. Probably the Switch 1 first and the Switch 2 later. Let's talk about the God of War TV show. It's already confirmed to have a Season 2 before Season 1 even has a release date. So they're really banking on this. And again, we've talked about this on this channel too, is that ultimately, companies are trying to make movies, and the movies aren't really selling. They're not really selling at the box office. In my opinion, they don't have good writers, and that's really what the bulk of it is. And so, they're finding what works, and right now that's video game adaptions. And so I have a section on my channel, a playlist on YouTube of just adaptions that I'm able to see and take a look at. So, and we'll take a look at as many as we can. Some of them, of course, cost money, and hey, life is tight. But we'll look as many as we can for you guys. But the God of War TV show, we got 2 seasons, and the writers are David Jaffe. So he basically wrote on Twisted Metal games and also on the God of War. Quite a few of the God of Wars, actually. He also worked on the Twisted Metal TV show, that though he's unaccredited. Not entirely sure why. So David Jaffe seems like a good one. We also have Ronald Moore. He's the showrunner, the creator, head writer. And we know so far that he's actually got one episode, probably the first one. Moore is really well known for Battlestar Galactica. That's been an IP that's been going around for a long time. Though, of course, it's not as popular today, but it definitely has a following. So, as for the actors, there's been some names that have been tossed around, but it does look like Kratos is actually going to be played by Christopher Judge, which is the original guy for the God of War reboots that we've had. And so that's wonderful. I think he does a wonderful job. His voice fits what we would think of as Kratos, as like old man Kratos. And so, yeah, hopefully this can actually be good. But I still always worry about a show rather than a movie a lot more, because the show always have these kind of like micro bursts of events or things that happen, and sometimes I feel like the episodes are just filler, or that things happen in the TV show just to get from A to B that doesn't really make a lot of sense or causes some continuity issues. And so, yeah, the TV shows aren't as like fun for me to do, but I would prefer to actually have a movie. I think that would be great, and just start from like the very beginning and basically make it rated Super M and or Super R, and just be able to just have Kratos be Kratos in the movie. I think that would be great. But then I would be worried about like what they did with Halo and what they're going to do. Like, we're going to see Minecraft actually today, this afternoon, so that will be coming. My review on that will be coming. Hopefully they let me take my notebook in, but yeah, we'll see. So yeah, hopefully that does give me some hope actually for the God of War TV show that'll be coming on Amazon. Let's talk about Digital Foundry. So there's been some talk on Reddit and some other posts too that like there's kind of like this weird consistent stutter issue on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro, that it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen for everybody. Well, they worked on doing some testing. They tested 19 games, and it looks like the issue happens when VRR is on and frame rate is unlocked, and then for the game, and then you have this consistent stuttering every 8 seconds. And it's actually pretty easy to see. I mean, it will be fairly smooth, and then you'll see it. And you can literally count it down every 8 seconds, and it happens. So there's something really weird with that. Now, what is also weird about this is that it has to run. You have to have your game running basically 20-25 minutes, and then it starts happening. So again, there's kind of some weird input issue. It doesn't seem to be a memory leak, at least according to Digital Foundry. But yeah, I will link this video down below so that you can actually watch it. But if you have the frame rate locked with VRR on, the stutter doesn't happen. So it's only when the frame rate is actually unlocked. And the stutter would continue with unlocked frames first. And then if you unlock it, you get the stutter, and then you lock it again, the stutter continues. So you can't have VRR on with unlocked frames at all. Otherwise, you're going to hit that issue. So, yeah, which is kind of a bummer. And some people have gotten used to 60 or 120 hertz pretty regularly. And so then when they play 30, I'm even starting to see that myself with my new TV, is that it's very jarring, and it's very actually easy to see because you've gotten used to something for so long, or you've been made aware of what the higher frame rates are like. And boy, it is nice. Let me tell you, it is nice. But like when you get 30 or 25, like what I'm seeing in Assassin's Creed Shadows sometimes with the cutscenes, man, is that jarring. It really just, yeah, it's hard to watch. Actually, it's pretty hard to watch. So yeah, we don't really have any idea exactly what's going on, but it is interesting that users have been noting this since December of 2024. So this has been a problem that's been going on for a few months. There doesn't really seem to be a fix for it so far. Sony hasn't, acknowledged it at all. So I kind of wonder, though, if it was an update to something that changed. So it would be interesting to go back through the patch notes in like November or December, if they had any, and to actually see it. Again, this doesn't occur on every single game, but it is a big portion of them. And yeah, that stutter it's just there. So it happens on Elden Ring, it happens on The Last of Us, and yeah, there's other games too. So yeah, link down below if you're interested to watch the full video yourself with Digital Foundry. But it is kind of shocking that this also happens on the Pro, as they started making this back in like 2019. So they worked on the PlayStation 5 first, but the foundation of the Pro is built off of the PS5. And so whatever exactly is going on there and how it's built, how it's made, designed, says that there's something there that's causing that stutter with how it's all put together and built and designed with the architecture and the motherboard and stuff. So, yeah, I wonder if anyone will actually figure it out, but not even Digital Foundry knows exactly what's going on. They're like the professionals of this. So, yeah, that's really kind of interesting. But yeah, it sucks that this is happening on the Pro because people paid, $700 or hopefully not $1,000 for scalpers and stuff like that, which there shouldn't have been. Like there were plenty of units for everybody. But yeah, this is a premium product, and like the Pro keeps having issues. This is frustrating. The Pro doesn't really feel like a premium console. So, yeah. Also, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was tested, and that also definitely has that stutter issue. And it was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is also tested on the Series X, but there's no stutter that actually occurs during gameplay. I think they tested it for about an hour, and the stuttering never happened. So it is specifically a PlayStation issue at this point. Hopefully they fix it. Because again, if it didn't happen at launch, if it hasn't happened since through COVID and all of that stuff, but it started in December 24, I would think it would be some kind of a patch. And hopefully they can patch that out. Crystal Dynamics actually had some layoffs this week. 17 employees, which is roughly 5%. They were deemed necessary. So heartfelt that, they're getting rid of their employees and stuff. But, a lot of these companies, they just hired too much. It's really hard to get employees in the beginning of the 2020s, thanks to COVID, because people are being paid to stay at home. So it was hard to have enough workers to actually do all of the work that needed to be done. So they super hired everybody, and now they want to hold on to those employees as much as they can. And, people are working through all of the work. There's not enough work to keep everybody there, so people are getting laid off. That's ultimately what's happening. Or there's enough pushback that, people aren't basically spending enough with that company, and so then they're having layoffs. And this hasn't just been video games. This is every single industry that's out there. But yeah, they're losing about another 5%. As far as we know, they're still working on Perfect Dark. That's still going pretty good. And the new Tomb Raider game. These were kind of like, quote, redundant positions, most of them. And most of these actually came from the marketing and IT department. So for the first time in a while, we actually didn't have anyone get laid off from the QA department, which I think it's very prevalent that, yeah, you need quality assurance testers, okay? You need to actually make sure your games work, that aren't buggy, that don't crash, that don't have save file problems or progression bugs. Yeah, please fix your shit. Let them look for those bugs. But yeah, that sucks for Crystal Dynamics. They are owned by Embracer Group. They did a massive buying spree in the beginning of 2020s, and they've been having layoffs basically ever since, I think, the end of 2021 or kind of like halfway through 2022, somewhere in there. But yeah, they've been having layoffs ever since. Also, Eidos Montreal, they're also having layoffs, a total of 75. Again, they're cited as redundancies, and they don't have the capacity to reallocate them to other projects or whatever. In January of 2024, they had 97 layoffs, so now we're having another 75. And it's probably, again, just a percentage of the company. But yeah, both Crystal Dynamics and Eidos are actually owned by Embracer Group. And again, they have been laying off ever since. And they also sold Gearbox to Take-Two Interactive and also Saber Interactive to Beacon Entertainment. So it's like they've sold some, in my opinion, fairly good studios with some good IPs. But yeah, Embracer just bought too much and didn't account for the elastic band of spending to shrink back, to snap back. And boy, they are definitely feeling the pain. They're also one of the biggest, if not the biggest, actual publishers, even more than Tencent and Microsoft to a degree, with just all of the studios and all of the IPs that they own. Now, the amount of money coming in, they don't win on that front. They don't win on revenue, but just the amount that is of people that they affect and how many studios and IPs they actually have control of. It's pretty insane. Let's talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. So they've sold 10 million copies so far in their first month. Very successful game. This equals to more than $700 million at this point. So they basically made $1 billion probably. And also hasn't been discounted, which is good. That's a good sign that people are actually enjoying it and liking it. And yeah, this has been an extreme success. Some people don't like some of the changes as much. I shared my own concerns, which not everyone appreciated. And hey, that's okay. Everyone's comments are welcome here. It doesn't affect me too much. But like I do see that the casualization of Monster Hunter Wilds and the fact that they put it out early and Capcom didn't care because they needed some money on the table for their fiscal year. And they screwed over the players to a degree. And yeah, again, the players just don't care. And I think the reason that is because the AAA space has been so bad lately. Because we've had Veilguard, we've had Suicide Squad, we've had Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, we've had X Defiant, we've had, which is maybe more of a double A. But we've also had, Starfield was kind of a letdown in some aspects, and definitely the DLC was worse than that. So, yeah, there's been some major disappointments lately in the gaming space from these big IPs, even just the skill-based matchmaking on Call of Duty. Good God, man. And the frustrations with Diablo, and the list goes on. I mean, it's pretty crazy what's been going on. And so, yeah, just to have a game that scratches that itch, that is performanced horribly for most people and has crashes. And yeah, hopefully they're going to fix all of those, of course, but also, too, just the lack of content toward the end of the game and the lack of content of what's actually coming up is kind of surprising. But again, if it has been so horrible, this actually looks really good, which is why, in my opinion, it's getting high 80s, low 90s for scores, and user base is really loving it. So, but this is just going to show that the changes that Capcom made to make it a little more streamlined for game mechanics, a little more easier to jump into, they're probably going to keep that for the next iteration. And they're going to, in my opinion, they're going to continue to degrade the uniqueness of Monster Hunter and continue to casualize the game. And again, they're going to follow the money until it doesn't make money anymore. And then years from now, we're going to get another Ubisoft, another Activision Blizzard, and it'll just be a frustrating mess. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I truly hope I'm wrong. But more and more companies and publishers have been pushing this way. And this is why all of these games that I listed before that were AAAs just ultimately failed. Because again, they're not listening to their audience. They don't know what their audience wants, and they're not producing it. And the audiences are basically ultimately saying no at this point. And the reputation of some studios are just ultimately getting destroyed. And hopefully Capcom doesn't do that, because they got a really good IP there. They should nurture that. Let's talk about Atomfall. Started off fairly well. It's pretty early. This actually has a 3.5 stars on Xbox. Some people like it. Some people enjoy it for what it is. It's not like, again, an amazing game, but it sold 1.5 million copies so far, basically at launch. So it actually sold really well in the first weekend, and some also bought this at higher prices for the better editions for the game. But yeah, according to Rebellion, this has actually been the most copies sold so far for any of their games. I don't know if that's total. I don't know if that's just in the first weekend launch. But yeah, 1.5 million is a good start. That's for sure. So for them, this has been very successful. The trajectory is looking good for the amount of money that they're actually going to make on this game. And yeah, I think people too enjoy it. We haven't had a Fallout game for a while, so this is kind of Fallout-ish, but it's not like Fallout quality or size, I would say. I still have yet to play it myself, but from what I've been seeing with the initial looks and reviews that I've been watching and reading up on, is that, yeah, people generally enjoy this game. Again, it's just scratching that itch for some kind of apocalyptic RPG, and this is actually fitting that niche pretty well. And so, yeah, people are enjoying it. Also, Rebellion is a very efficient studio. If you can basically sell 1.5 million copies and be profitable, That is pretty freaking good. Now, you maybe heard of Rebellion before. They also make the Sniper Elite series, which has been going on for quite some time. Resistance was fun. I enjoyed the campaign. It was fun having the multiplayer in there. Got invaded a little too often for my liking. Sometimes I just yank the Ethernet cord from my Xbox and be like, nope, I just need to freaking play and get through this spot. But yeah, getting invaded once every 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. Was kind of ridiculous and frustrating, but it has done really well. But yeah, this shows too that they don't really need to sell millions to be profitable, and I think this ultimately is going to be the future. And I think too, this is ultimately what's happening with Ubisoft. Is like they're making a subsidiary that's going to be more efficient, more refined, more condensed down to the people that are really making Ubisoft money with those three IPs, and they're just going to continue to do that. Now the other side of the studio is going to have probably less budget overall, and they're going to have to kind of see if they can, use what they're given to actually create some good games. But I think there's going to be more double A's that are going to be cost effective in how they run and how they create stuff. And one of the better ways to do that is actually just to keep it out of North America, because it's expensive to make games over here. Whether it's in Canada or the United States, the costs are really, really high. And so, like Saber Interactive, for example, over in Eastern Europe, they've been able to do a good job of actually creating their game and making it cost effective. Same with Rebellion, same with the GSC Worlds that made Stalker 2. Is like they just have a cheaper budget. They can make things more cheaply, and everyone is happy with what they're getting paid. And you don't have to spend $150,000 a year to just pay one guy to be able to put some, textures through Blender or Unreal Engine 5 and make a game, or Unity, and start making the assets for the game. Because yeah, it is getting really expensive over here, and that's why a lot of the headquarters and studios have actually been closing over in California, where a lot of them have started, is because it just costs too much. I mean, what are you going to do? It really just costs too much. Kojima made an announcement that he's got 20 million players, not copies sold, want to make that clear, but 20 million players so far with Death Stranding. Now, this was a hiking sim. I really made fun of it for a while, and then I started playing it myself, and I was like, wow, the immersion is like really well done. It's way better than Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, in my opinion. Like, yeah, Death Stranding is actually pretty fun. Again, it's not for everybody. It is definitely kind of more of like a, quote, cozy, relaxing game. So if you're looking something just to burn your time in, that's still pretty nice, still has a pretty good production budget, looks pretty, and you kind of want to do something. It's a fun game to actually do that in. And just the coolest feature of that game is the hidden multiplayer aspects. And it just, yeah, it creates that level of immersion for yourself, which is just really cool. It's really hard to see that in the first several hours, but once you start getting to like hour 5, hour 10, you can actually start seeing how you and other players affect each other in your games, and that's just really neat. So, again, you don't have to play the online aspect or feature of it, but I really think people should, because that's how it's intended to be played. And without that feature, yes, it is a very boring game. It really would be. It would be pretty tough. But yeah, what we found out so far is that PlayStation 5 has basically sold roughly around 5 or 6 million copies. Or PlayStation, excuse me, not just 5, but also 4 and 5. But yeah, roughly sold about 5 million, 6 million copies. And yeah, it's been out since the PlayStation 4. It's been out a long time. I think it's been almost 10 years now. It's been out for some time. But when Kojima Productions actually bought the rights from Sony last year to Death Stranding, well, they wanted to put the game everywhere. So that means that Death Stranding gained 15 million players, basically 300%, when they put it over to other platforms. And this is crazy because Death Stranding was on PC and Game Pass for 2022 for a little bit, and also on the Epic Store for free for a little bit, and was also on PlayStation Plus for free. So Again, this is not necessarily copies sold, but to see 20 million players in your game is pretty nuts. Kojima has also said that a lot of people are now hopping in because they know that Death Stranding 2 on the beach is coming. And I definitely want to play that when it becomes available. But yeah, Sony's never going to get their rights back. Death Stranding is never going to be a game that's going to be fully exclusive. It'll probably be timed exclusive for a year. And Kojima knows that he's going to get his money and he's going to make some bank when it goes to basically all of the platforms if there's 20 million players. Maybe not all of those 20 million are actually going to buy a copy, but there's going to be a really good chunk, I bet, at launch, and he'll definitely make his money back. So yeah, the platforms that we see are basically Xbox, PC, and Nintendo. And yeah, to get an extra 15 million players basically from those platforms is pretty crazy. And this is why publishers, too, they want to sell on all platforms. It's just more money. It makes sense. I mean, if you have a product and you open it up to, let's say, 100,000 potential buyers, you'll get some buyers. But if you open it up to 100 million potential buyers, you're going to get more buyers, right? You're going to sell it to more people. You're going to get more money. You're going to get more revenue in through the door off of your product. And that's why these publishers are wanting to do that, is because it's becoming even unaffordable for them to be exclusive. And now, oh man, this is really interesting because this is why I think Nintendo is raising their prices. Partly is that they're not necessarily making enough across the board for every game that is basically on their system. But the problem is they also don't want the exclusivity to disappear, because that's really why people kind of buy the Nintendo. Is it's affordable, though debatable at this point. We'll get into that. And also, they want to get the IPs. And there's basically 5 or 6 of them. That's basically it. I mean, we have Donkey Kong, Mario, Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, and there's probably a few others out there that I'm missing, thinking off the top of my head. But it's important to realize that, yeah, maybe these games are now going to be $70 base. Some of them are going to be $80 digital and $90 for physical. That might even go up now, including with the tariffs from Vietnam. Again, we'll get into that later. But yeah, if they're ultimately not selling enough, if they're seeing the curtailment, the drop in their revenues, or stagnating revenues even when their player counts are going up, which is not good, the number of consoles going up, because I think we even saw a statistic, I gave this a few weeks back, is that 14% of the consoles aren't turned on at all last year. Of the Switch ones, 14% weren't turned on. That's a lot. That's a lot of people saying bye-bye. I mean, 15% of whatever 150 million consoles sold is. Someone could do the math for me. Let's see, what is that? 21 million? I think that's right. Anyway, check me if you're curious. Leave it down in the comments. But yeah, this is why ultimately, I think the prices are going up. Why these microtransactions have been such a Hail Mary for almost a decade at this point is because, well, now these companies have gotten big enough to a certain point. They want to become sustainable. And so they're pushing that stuff out there. They're wanting to get as much money in through the door. And now they have to get that money through the door. Otherwise, they can't sustain themselves as they are. They have to have layoffs. They have to sell IPs or studios. They close studios down. I mean, that's what we've been seeing for almost 4 years now. And it's frustrating. I agree. I'm right there with you. People losing their jobs, that sucks. But hey, business is business. What are you going to do? It is what it is. Doesn't matter if it's capitalism, socialism, or communism, or fascism. Companies got to make money. It's got to happen. And so, yeah, we're seeing these changes. And yeah, I don't agree with them or like them all either, but I understand what's happening. So yeah, this is very interesting. But yeah, I did think about this too with this exclusivity and why, publishers are really wanting to sell on as many platforms as possible. Imagine if Metal Gear Solid Delta, the remake from Metal Gear Solid 3, the best Metal Gear Solid game in my opinion, what if it was only on PlayStation 5? Or what if it was only on Xbox? Or it was only on Steam? I mean, you would be cutting out millions of copies. And this, it's all about money. It's about following the money. Millions of copies. Now, the thing that's helped Nintendo is that they have kept their prices down. But, man, not this time. And yeah, we're going to go over that later. So yeah, it's just very interesting. But this is why exclusivity is just kind of going out the door. Why it's unpopular, even with PlayStation, because they're trying to say, yeah, we're exclusive, but like they're not really, because everything's going over to PC. Some are even going over to Nintendo, and then depending on what Xbox and Steam deal with, what their deals are, then stuff is eventually going to be through a loophole able to get to also Xbox. So that would be very interesting too if that happens. But Nintendo's the only one that hasn't deviated so far. They're continuing to keep those exclusivity, but they're working harder on being able to have third parties play on their console. We get to see that this time with the Switch 2. But yeah, many of PlayStation's first party, they're basically going to PC in 18 months or less. That's really, really fast. It used to be 3 or 4 years, like the original God of War reboot. It used to take forever to actually get that on PC. And yeah, now many third parties, they don't want their exclusives really to be there anymore. And if there is a deal, then the exclusive is basically just for 12 months. And even Capcom and Square Enix have said especially, hey, we don't want to do really exclusives anymore, or true exclusives at least. And yeah, there's going to be more publishers that are going to want to follow that because, again, they need to make money. It's very interesting. All right, Silent Hill F. Apparently this was banned in Australia, but not really. So we're going to go over this because, yeah, this is kind of some miscommunication. So there was confusion with Silent Hill F when it was listed on the Aussie classification board that the game was listed as, quote, refused classification. So the process that devs and publishers can take is that they can submit to something called IARC, which is for games that are going to be digital only. And you can get instant approval, but that means that you're not really put before a human board. You're put before a program that decides. It takes a look at stuff and decides that your application. Now, IARC system actually flagged the game, which means it refused classification and, quote, didn't, saw some flags. And so now it's actually got to manually go over to the Aussie board to actually make a decision. So this system is basically to help them weed through stuff that's easy to classify so that they don't have to do it and they can work on the harder stuff to classify. That's really what this system is for. So they have the computer up front filtering out as much as it can, and then whatever is refused classification, which I'm sure is quite a bit, then the board itself has to actually work on making a classification. And that's all that's going on. So like this game is not going to be banned in Australia. This game's going to be fine. They're going to work on making a classification, which is probably going to be M, because if it's not M, it's not a Silent Hill game. And yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be coming to those that want it. We just have to wait for the official board to actually make the classification and then get it out there. And they will publicly announce that before release date. So yeah, there's nothing that we really need to be worried about. It is interesting, though, to see that this is how an AI-like system can actually help things with a company, with a board, with an agency. And so, like, AI is not going anywhere. There's actually good uses for this. But I understand people, too, and we even see it in the industries right now that, yeah, AI can also replace jobs. The jobs of people can be laid off as, quote, redundant, because let's say you pay $10,000 a year to keep a program running, and you pay someone $50,000 a year, or multiple $50,000s a year for humans. And it's like, well, if I cut the humans and the AI does good enough, I can save a bunch of money as a company. And that's basically what's happening. So yeah, this is a double-edged sword. There's some good aspects to it. There's some frustrating aspects to it. But it's all just paper. It's all just debt anyway. And so it's just trading debt around. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Inflation is still going to go up. And unless you figure out how to cut your own costs for your own lifestyle, man, you are going to struggle forever. Sorry if that's a little hard-hitting this morning or whenever you're listening to this, but that's the reality of the whole thing is, we can all complain ultimately about how businesses are doing this, about how Nintendo is raising prices on that, about how, we got the shenanigans with PlayStation, with the Pro, and trying to make people be forced to make a PSN account just to play the games on Steam, and now they've rolled that back, and all of this stuff. Okay, Xbox dying as a console, which it absolutely is, and so that they're just getting rid of the console as a barrier and moving it toward basically getting their software on everything, because software is what really makes money. But yeah, we can look at all of this stuff, but ultimately, it's up to you to adapt. The companies will adapt, and so you should too. That's really the message today, because no one is responsible for your life but you. That's really it. You want it to be better? Go make it better. That means there's going to be some pain involved. You're probably going to have to withhold some things for a while. I don't mean just a few months. I mean like years of your life. But like, look towards your future. You know, the coffee's nice. The buying the video game for $10 is nice. But is that really going to make you happy? Put that money instead towards your future, and I guarantee you, long term, it will be better. Because that's what I've been doing, and I don't regret it at all. Has it been a long journey? Yeah, it's been over a decade. Been a long time. But life's looking pretty good. And then, yeah, I'm not stopping either. Let's keep it going. If you've hit your goal, make a new one. Keep it going. Don't quit. Let's take a look at some others that are actually playing FragPunk. Now, I am kind of worried for the studio because this is pretty flippin' wild. Actually, let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, this is pretty freaking wild. So, the FragPunk itself is a free-to-play game, so I understand there's going to be some microtransactions. There's going to be some other stuff in there too, right? And, like, it's fine. But, man, when there's 12, like, that's pretty freaking insane. So, like, let's look at some of these. This one says there's 11. Which is fine. I don't think I can get rid of that one. Oh, that's built in. Anyway. So, yeah, we have the main currencies, right? We have gold, okay? We have Glue Knight coins, whatever that is. We have FragPunk coins. And look at some of these prices. Oh, my gosh. It's crazy. We also have original pop cans. We have Curiosity pop cans, whatever that is. Ultimate material. We have membership pick. We also have battle pass tokens. We have ranked coins. There's club supplies, lancer and weapon skin keys. I mean, look at this. Even exclusive event currencies. Like, gall, if we thought, Multiverse was bad from Warner Brothers, holy gall, like, this is going to be, I mean, you're going to have like 5, 6, 7 dailies a day of different sets of stuff to rank through and push through. And oh god, I got to like go through this and I don't have time and I'm going to skip out and miss my ultimate skin on this gun that I'm not going to care about in 6 months. I mean, this is insane, folks. Like, look at this. Lancer statues. I mean, yeah. Over 10 currencies. This is nuts. This ultimately is not good. And then, too, taking a look at some of this stuff, it's like, okay, some of the skins are even $60. Or some of the skins for some of the gun skins are $40. Some of the skins for your avatar are like, $20, $30. I'll actually link a description down below for the AngryJoeShow, because they took a look at the game because it's only on Steam, and man, I mean, it's just full of this stuff. Now, the console release is actually delayed. The PC release is already out. I plan to take a look at some point, but I've been busy with Assassin's Creed Shadows and keeping up with the Nintendo news this week. And yeah, I got stuck on Tomb Raider, so I played a bit longer. I will be playing some again, though, because, yeah, I want to make it through Alexandria. But anyway, the live service games today, they have trouble getting off the ground, and I really want to make a point on this because players have already invested money and time in another game. So your game really has to be special in order to pull those players to get them to your game, because there's only so many out of the entire player base of gamers that actually wants to play these type of live service games, right? And so if they're held up in COD, if they're held up in Fortnite, and if they're held up in Apex and Counter-Strike Go and all of these other games, right? If they're sucked into all of those and they're playing the dailies, they're doing the weeklies, well, how are they going to have time to play your game? Again, I think some people are curious, but I really have worries for the studio because it's like, this is why Veilguard, actually changed the live service aspect of their game to try to get it out of there. Because, live service isn't really that popular anymore. Even Fortnite, the king of kings for freaking live service games, they're having lower player counts. They're not keeping the retention. And that's what's necessary. Destiny, Bungie is basically broke and going to die at some point if they can't get Destiny 2 to succeed for a little bit longer until they can get Marathon out the door. And even Marathon has been delayed for over a year, and we've heard nothing about it. And even like the gameplay stuff we're supposed to be getting last year, it never happened. So, like these companies have bet so heavy on this live service, and even Sony, they're losing and not making a lot of money. In some quarters, they're not really making any money at all because they've canceled roughly, I think, 12 live service games now over the last 4 years. That's nuts. That's nuts. And so then I see stuff like this, and it's like, are people really going to play this? Now, again, maybe people are going to like it. Maybe people are going to enjoy it, and that's fine. But yeah, this is really kind of crazy because I don't see long-term how they can actually win, how they can have enough to get funded. So ultimately what they need is they need the whales to find the game, to like the game, and then the whales will fund them. And that's what's happened with like Star Citizen. I think that's the biggest example. Also Destiny players at a point. But even Destiny's falling apart. And that's pretty incredible to see. So when we first took a look at the first Descendant, we talked about the same thing. Is it fun? Is it engaging? Is there some stuff to grind for, but also story too? Yeah, some of those are there. But then again, the microtransactions are so insane. It's like, who is going to continue to play this? And I was calling it then. We are not even a year anniversary yet, but I was calling it then that it's like, this is not going to be good. I mean, at launch, we had 264,000 trying out the game on Steam. There was also it was also on PlayStation Time Tracker for quite a while, and it kind of comes and goes month to month depending on what comes out. So some people still go back and play it, but it's like really toward the bottom of the list now, if at all, depending on what month it is. And then two, it's like all the people I used to see on my friends list playing the first Descendant, none of them play anymore. At least that I see. None of them whatsoever. And if we look at it today, we're 9 months in so far. SteamDB shows 16,000 players last weekend. And an average weekday is like 11 to 13,000 players. And again, I hope those are whales, because if those are just average Joes like you and me, man, that ain't going to work. They're not going to make enough money long term. PlayStation Time Tracker this last month did show that it was number 40 in hours played, but only 2% of the player base are actually playing since launch. So people are still showing up, they're still playing the game, they're enjoying it. Sometimes it's almost completely off the list, or is completely off the list. Some months I haven't been able to see it on there. Maybe I missed it or something. That's possible too, because it's 100 games to look over. But so yeah, it's got the hours played, but only 2% of the player base. Man. Yeah, I hope those people are whales, man, because that's not great. But the microtransactions are, again, they're crazy in that game too. X-Defiant, millions and millions of players play in this game, and it was basically dead in 12 months. So it's like, how is FragPunk not going to have the same thing? Apex Legends also losing players, and EA has even said that basically it's not going to have any major updates for a while. There will still be support, there will still be some content, but it's going to be taking a back seat as EA focuses on the next Battlefield, and some of their other IPs that are actually making them money. So the market is saturated, and the microtransaction stuff is, in my opinion, is too high. And it's like it's ultimately it's the digital shopping experience, and more. Thank goodness you guys are paying attention. But like more and more people are finding out that the digital shopping experience is really not that fun. And then you have all of these gambling mechanics that are basically built into these games, like Football Club, okay, like Madden, like Call of Duty, like Diablo. I mean, even games like Dragon's Dogma 2 has like experience boosts and this other stuff you can buy in the store. Man, frick you. No. I'm waiting for that game to go on super sale and then I'll buy it. Something that I appreciated with Space Marine 2, which I was willing to pay more for, basically $60 instead of 70, is that the microtransactions in the game, they're not microtransactions. It still has a battle pass, but you can actually work through it by playing the game. It's not like, ooh, give me money. Here's another $20 skin for your boots. It's just stupid, folks. It's just stupid. And like I get so sick of it. And ultimately the player counts and the money and all of these live service companies and publishers, their player bases are getting tired of it too. Because again, they're giving you a hashtag digital shopping experience. They're not giving you a video game. It's not a game. It's a grinding experience to eventually break you down mentally, emotionally, so that you spend money. It's gross. It's freaking gross. So, yeah. Good luck to FragPunk, man. Yeah, if we got time, we'll actually take a look at it. And again, there's another game that's coming out, Mecha Break. It's another live service. It's another game out of Japan or South Korea or China or something like that. But again, Mecha Break, it's like, how long is that going to make money? Again, it's the same problem. There's just not enough people to spend all of that time to get all of the grind. And, you know, when you're doing things that don't really equal the value they think they should, you eventually quit. And that's what's happening. So it's like we have live service games that basically last 12 months and then they blow up. And that's the end of that. Some games don't even get off the ground. So yeah, these live service games, I mean, FragPunk, I'm going to be kind of curious. Mecha Break, I'm going to be curious. But it's like, I don't want to play these games. I would even rather play Assassin's Creed Shadows than those games. I would rather play Black Ops 6 campaign than those games. I'd rather try the new Battlefield. If they build the gameplay right, I'm going to enjoy it for my base price. I'm not going to put microtransactions in there. I'd rather play Wildlands again, Dark Souls 3. I'd rather play Armored Core, or Liza P, or Space Marine 2, or Split Fiction. Like, there's plenty of other games out there, folks, to have a fun time, to engage with other players. But yeah, some of these are it's just getting crazy. All right, let's move on. Nintendo, we find out, is not only announced the Zelda movie, which is going to be by Sony Columbia Pictures. They've already released there's going to be 3 movies. There's going to be a trilogy for all of this. The first movie is coming in March in 2027. And so, yeah, they already think these are going to be a huge success. I'll go see it. I'll let you guys know how it is. Absolutely. But yeah, if the first one isn't really good enough, what about the other 2 movies? They already paid for the licensing. Like, they're already paying for the trademarks. And, I mean, they got to get all that stuff done, right? So, yeah. But it's all really kicked off with, like, the Mario movie, which was a really good adaptation, in my opinion. It wasn't great. But yeah, Mario did really well. We also had Five Nights at Freddy's do really well. I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's, I think, made over $500 million for, like, $20 million. Crazy. And yeah, it's a really good movie to the fans. Does a great job. So does the Mario movie. Okay. So did the Last of Us TV show. Generally speaking, so did the Fallout TV show. I mean, there's some good ones out there. They've been some good ones, and as this again makes more money, as more companies see the dollar signs, they're going to say, "Hey, what else can we make?" Even the Sonic movies, usually by Sonic the Hedgehog 3. You know, it's like, it shouldn't do that well, but it's like, you know what, actually did pretty good still. That's pretty incredible. So Mario made over $1 billion. I think it was 1.2 or 1.3 billion. Also, the actors for Legend of Zelda, they've already been signed for these 3 movies. So if it continues to be successful, then they have them and they're contractually obligated to take the time to actually do those movies. So, yeah, Legend of Zelda starting in 2027. I'll do those adaptions. It'll be interesting. Let's talk about the EU. Finally putting out some more guidelines on gaming mechanics that basically focus on gambling in kids' games. So it's really good to see these because we got an example, Star Stable Online, which is rated for 9-year-olds and above. But the mechanics that are built in are all about like engaging the emotions of the player and getting them to spend money. So like there's the FOMO, there's the subscriptions to continue actually progressing in the game, which is freaking horrible. And the EU has established some of these guidelines to start pushing back to protect kids. Because again, they're not fully developed. You think my kids are ever going to be, at least to my knowledge, playing some microtransaction, repetitive, daily garbage? No. They can go play the games, but it's like they're not getting any money for those games. If they want to go make some money to go spend that said money on those games, they can do that, I guess. But yeah, it's like, are you really having fun? Like, and the gambling mechanics for this, the dopamine hits and the endorphins getting them flowing in the brain and making you feel good about that purchase and flashes on the screen and I got a skin for my boots. I mean, it's just stupid, folks. It's really pretty frustrating. Again, if you want to buy a few, that's fine. But to the point where it sucks up your time, it sucks up your money, it sucks up your debt. It grows your debt and you're broke, and that's when you got to stop. That's when it's extremely dangerous. And to start basically using these predatory gambling mechanics in games for kids, that is just freaking disgusting. So parents, if you have kids, okay, you should be paying attention to what your kids are playing. My kids won't even play Fortnite for quite a while because, again, all of the type of mechanics that are built in there. And, like, I see some of my friends, they have young kids under 10, and, like, their kids are freaking addicted. Their kids are freaking addicted to Fortnite and Apex, and they can't wait to get their allowance so they can spend their money on their in-game currency and get those, get the boot skin. It's just sad because that's ultimately not making them happy because they always got to get the next one. And that's why addictions are a problem, folks. They steal your life away in more ways than one. And now it's like we have this stuff that's happening in FIFA, in Madden, again, focused toward kids, rated E for everyone. It's like, no, that should not be the case. That should not be the case at all. So hopefully this actually takes off with some actual law, and that it's not just the EU, but that it's actually going somewhere else. But yeah, these guidelines are working on to protect kids from these predatory mechanics, and it ultimately is scummy, I think, regardless of age, because, usually the younger can be more manipulated, but I want to say this too, that the average world's IQ is below 100. It's really not that high. The average for just about everybody is somewhere between 85 and 90. That's concerning. It's gotten so low that the psych board has actually had to lower the level for mental retardation from 75 to 70. They've had to lower it 5 points because too many people are getting too close. That's scary. That should really be a wake-up call for parents. Certainly a wake-up call for me. I mean, that's scary. Kids and I played in the backyard, tried some soccer and tried some baseball. We went out to the store and we bought some of that, and they had a great time in the back. And they basically get to play games once a month. I mean, I want them to live. I want them to develop skills. And I want them to be able to learn how to be social. So we go to the parks and we let them play, and they hurt themselves. We kind of wait for them to come to us unless they're really screaming, right? Then yeah, maybe something was of course wrong. But yeah, we let them toughen up a little bit too. The world isn't all unicorns and rainbows. Isn't that right, folks? Sometimes they're full of microtransactions. Digital shopping experience. But yeah, this is just disgusting with games like Star Stable Online, and there's tons of them. There's tons of them. They make them pretty. They shove them out there, and it's like, yeah, let's get a low rating so we can get kids in here. There's even an issue too where there's some of the uh, advertising that is used, like different YouTubers, is like they're personally targeted to these YouTubers because they have young audiences that can get excited for these skins and stuff. And yeah, I just wish it would go away. I really do. Live service has its place, but it should be adults only. Let's talk about. Oh yeah, I'll also link below the YongYea's video for more information on what the EU is actually doing in Star Stable Online in the game and other games like it. It's pretty good. So yeah, links down below. Let's talk about Night Dive Studios. So they're ready to make some more remasters from the 360 and PlayStation 3 days, which I know people would love, especially on PlayStation 3, because PlayStation only allows you to emulate PlayStation 3 with PlayStation Plus membership. So to actually be able to buy those and own, quote own those as players would be pretty awesome and pretty nice. So they did System Shock. That was pretty good. They also did Dark Forces and actually completed a level at the end, which I haven't even gotten there yet. That's pretty cool. I'm also working on Turok right now, and or that just actually came out. And then they're working on System Shock 2. So they're working through all of this stuff. And one thing they mentioned in the interview with GameSpot is that, trying to find the contracts for the old games, because it was all paper back then. So it's in a box, in a room full of boxes, in a warehouse full of rooms. And it's really hard to actually find some of these contracts. So this is some of the licensing issues and publishing issues that we've ran into with other games. This is what is an issue too with Microsoft and PlayStation and anyone else right now, is just the old stuff's hard to find, because you got to give credit where credit's due. But if you can't tell who had the credit, well, then you're taking somebody's money. And that's illegal, and that's a liability. And so they just choose to not do it, which I think sucks. Because, yeah, these IPs, man, they have, like, moved all over the place, switched hands, changed different partnerships. And so, yeah, you got to be able to find those contracts, and you got to be able to read them. It's pretty crazy. So, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But, yeah, they would like to actually do some more remasters. I hope that publishers actually let them do that, because yeah, so far I think they've done a really fun job. They do a good job of trying to capture the essence of what people remember about the game. That's really their focus. It's not one-to-one. It's looking at the game and being like, okay, what is reminiscent of this? What is nostalgic about this? And let's capture that. Maybe it's not the best design choice. Maybe it's not the prettiest, but that's not the point. Is to capture the nostalgia. And yeah, they do a good job. So that's pretty cool. Let's talk about PlayStation Plus. So games for April: RoboCop Rogue City. Pretty good game, actually. They're making a standalone DLC. And so yeah, you can grab that for free this month. Also, Texas Chainsaw and Digimon Cyber Sleuth. You can grab those this month. These are the free games for April, and regardless of tier. And finally, we've had to wait 4 months into the year to actually get some good stuff on PlayStation Plus. Because, yeah, we got Suicide Squad and Veilguard, and even though people say that Veilguard did not see a player boost or player bump, well, they're not looking at PlayStation Time Tracker, because clearly, as soon as that game came out for March, basically a week in, Veilguard got a big boost on PlayStation Time Tracker, and it's actually still got a pretty good boost on there. It's still played, so, yeah, a lot of people did actually try it out and test it, but again, it's just because it was free. Like, they're not making money on that, which is pretty brutal. Let's talk about Night Rain, the network test. So these are the statistics. And again, I'm just going to go over these. And I'm excited for what it is for Night Rain. It's not like a game I would want to spend, $70 for, or willing to pay $100 for, like Elden Ring, or even like a remaster of Bloodborne or something. But yeah, let's go through some of these stats, because it was kind of interesting. Gladius, the final boss at the very end, was defeated 58,600 times. So not a lot of people were actually able to accomplish that, which is pretty wild. There were 23.6 million hits given to revive players. Basically, the mechanic, for those of you that don't know, is if a player goes down, he kind of crawls around on the ground. and then you have to beat him up with your sword in order to fill up a meter so that they can get back up again. So for those of you that are the heavy classes, work hard to get those players back up because you're actually the most effective compared to everybody else. The mini bosses, how many were actually defeated during the play test? The Hippo was 195,000 times. Chariots were defeated 165,000. Fire Monks 150,000. Flying Dragon 147,000. The Army Knights, which I actually kind of enjoyed that fight, was 99,000 times. And that was not overly hard, but I think you got to go to a region or a place that's kind of out of the way, and I just don't think a lot of people found it, but it is one of the easier and faster fights. I'll give it that. The amount of runes lost during the playtest was 38 billion. That is crazy. Like, yeah, I mean, Dark Souls and there, all of that is basically games where, yeah, you are going to lose souls. 38 billion in 30 hours of playtesting. 38 billion souls. That's crazy. That's crazy. Spectral Hawks, to use as a glider, basically, was used 427,000 times. And yeah, there was 30 hours of playtest time. The game is coming in May. And yeah, we'll take a look at the game for you. We'll see what it's like. I enjoyed it for what it was. I couldn't actually capture any gameplay, but I did have a video of basically what it's like. I'll try to remember to actually link that down below so that you can take a listen to it. And it is kind of in-depth. I know it's kind of long and rambly, but the information is what's important in getting those details out there so that ultimately you can make the better decision of whether you want to buy it or just wait and see or not deal with it at all. And that's totally okay. Okay. Let's talk about the Switch 2 Direct. Now, Digital Foundry, I'm going to link this video below. They have a really good overview of everything that was talked about. So, the console itself, the backwards compatibility, digital versus physical copies, the price increases. They go over, like, absolutely everything, which is great. So, I will link that down below. It's over an hour long. I think it's an hour and 10 or an hour and 15 or something like that. But I'm just going to go over some highlights here because, man, the price was shocking, I think, for a lot of people. And it's not that the cost of the console, I was thinking it'd be $400, maybe $450. I didn't think it was going to be $350 because, yeah, it's like if they want to get more third-party sales in through their console or even be able to run on their console, they need to really boost up that hardware, and it needs to be able to run at 4K at some frames, and at least be able to be stable at 60. Well, to a degree, they're pushing that to 120 hertz at 1080p, which is pretty crazy, pretty good. That's a little under of what the Series S is, and then both the Series S and the Switch 2 can run at 4K. But I think 4K is done at 30 hertz for the Switch 2, and then I think 4K at 60 for the Series S. I'd have to check that. But yeah, the price, $450. And then as you're watching through the entire Direct, it's like, oh, wow, we got to pay for the camera. The game chat features that they're adding are paywalled. The camera is going to be $50 to stream yourself so your friends can see. There's going to be GameCube backwards compatibility, but it's, again, basically going to be streamed to you to a degree, or you can access those servers or emulated for you. And there's only 3 games, and that's also paywalled behind the most expensive tier of Nintendo Online, for Pete's sakes. And then all of the external memory cards to expand your storage aren't going to work, so now you're going to have to use express cards, again, because of the better graphics, the ray tracing. Okay, you need to have like higher data throughput per second to actually render that crap onto the screen. And so, yeah, now everything gets a lot more expensive when you actually start doing that, because rendering 4K with ray tracing, it's really expensive on the hardware. It takes a lot of juice to actually put that on there, and I don't think people really appreciate it as much. But hey, it'll look nice, but I mean, is it worth $450 of look nice? Because now, like, Mario Kart World is going to be like 24 gigs on the console. And when it's only 256 gigs, well, you're basically taking 10% for one game. Now, that's one of the bigger games, of course, but when you get Dusk Bloods, like the exclusive that's going to be on Nintendo Switch 2, which if it is, that's totally fine. If it's not coming anywhere else, That's totally fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. They're not going to go get me with the price increases for everything else. Um, or like some of the other stuff too, like Borderlands 4 and the Madden games, and looks like FC is going to be on there as well. And there's a ton of third party that's actually going to be showing up to the game. Or to the console, again, which I think is great. It's got a really good launch. We also have Metroid Prime 4 that's going to be coming. We also have upgrades to multiple games like Legends of Zelda series, which is great. But again, you also got to work on paying for those too. And we're looking at like $20-$30 for the upgrades. Man, like that's getting expensive. And all the upgrades are just adding ray tracing. And maybe adding a higher resolution package like 4K. That's it. That is literally, that's so bullshit. That's literally all you're paying for. I got to tap that out, an hour and 5 minutes. But anyway, it's so ridiculous because it's like people really don't care about the resolution as much because they're realizing how much it really costs. And that's why these costs are high to begin with. Now, the other issue with this is that like the controllers, the Joy-Con 2s, they're going to be $90 for a pair. And then people, too, have asked also about, what about stick drift? Is it fixed? No. Even though the Hall effects joysticks are in there and built into the controllers, it will prevent the sensor from failing because it doesn't have a sensor anymore, right? Your general sensor. Your sensor won't fail because it's not in the joystick. But the mechanisms to hold the joystick at 0 are still going to wear out, and then it won't hold at 0 anymore, and then you'll have stick drift. Does that make sense? I'll try to remember to link another video down below so that I can actually explain this in a video. So Hall effects don't solve the stick drift problem. They solve one problem, which is great, but like still, if the actual joystick itself cannot return to 0, you're still going to have stick drift. And there's an easy way to fix this. This is so frustrating. There's an easy way to fix it. All you need to do is get PCB chips built in to all controllers and then have universal software that can return it to 0. That's it. If it's slightly off, just allow you to reset 0 and ta-da, it's gone. The other thing is dead zones, which this is becoming more common too. Even Stalker 2 had dead zones, which I was impressed. They added that to the game pretty quickly after launch. But yeah, dead zones are really important for a lot of people because they don't want to go out and buy another controller when it's expensive. Now, Xbox is pretty cheap because you can still use Xbox One controllers on the Series S and X. Super cheap. And then there's also, There's also sales really often on the Xbox controllers, whether Xbox One or Xbox Series X. You can buy brand new ones for like $45 multiple times a year. And it's not even Black Friday, which is great. But yeah, that is going to be an issue that more people are going to find out. It's like they're nickel and diming you for everything. Even the game tutorial to just learn and find out stuff about the Switch 2 is also paid. Like, Nintendo, what are you doing? The whole point of why people buy your console is because they would like to play the IPs, yes, but it's affordable. That's why you sell 150 million Switches. Because it's $300. It's not because of Mario. There's a few of those. Those are true fanboys. But people go buy your console. They go buy their main first, right? PlayStation or console or Xbox console. Or they're on PC and they've just like, look, we're eventually going to get everything anyway at this point. 34 million console players were added last year. Excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. 34 million PC players were added last year. So some of the console players are getting up and walking out and going over to PC. 34 million. Now that's an estimate, okay, because that's taking all of the different stores into account. And also a lot of them play the older games too, so they don't necessarily need a current connection, for their data to be transferred over to the servers. But yeah, 30 million plus. That's a lot of players that are getting up and walking away. And then, yeah, when you have the PC experience and you're okay with the deal with that kind of stuff, yeah, you're going to stay. It's like, why do I need a console? I don't. I'm now getting PlayStation on top of that, and I can emulate Nintendo. Ta-da! So now you have everything, and Yeah, why not just stay there? Upgrade when you need to instead of buying all new stuff every 8 to 10 years. I totally get that. Now, I still like console for my own reasons. But yeah, console is starting to get expensive, and all of this price hiking sets a new precedent. What's the next Series X going to cost? What is the next PlayStation 6 going to be? If the PS5 Pro is $700, not worth it, and Nintendo Switch 2 is $450, with games now being $70 baseline, and some of them even being $80 digital and $90 physical, and Joy-Cons basically being $100 a pair, frick me. Frick me. This is getting expensive. We're going to see some serious price. I really think the new baseline for consoles is going to be $600 for PlayStation and Xbox. But I think we're going to see more options. We're going to have a cost-friendly option that isn't going to run as good. Think of it like a Series S. And then we're also going to have like a premium option that will run the best. But again, you're going to pay money, money, money. So yeah, the whole thing is a mess. And then we have tariffs too. Nintendo just said yesterday that they actually need to delay the pre-order date of April 9th. They need to delay it until a further date so that they can readjust the pricing because of tariffs. Because their main production for their Switch 2 is in Vietnam and China, which now has 45 plus tariffs on it. That means that whatever the cost of the good is at MSRP is not built off of the wholesale price, it's off of the retail price. Then you add a tariff on top of it when it comes into the country to make it more expensive. And at basically 45 plus %, that is a ton. So $450 is now going to be $670. Are you excited to pay for that? What about your Joy-Cons? $90 a pair is now going to be like $140. Ugh! Oh, that's painful. Or $135. I think it's $135. What about your physical game? Your digital will be fine. But yeah, your physical copy. Oh, man. Yeah. No, it's kind of scary being a gamer right now. Because, like, this is our hobby, right? This is our passion for stuff. I'm not as passionate as I used to be about it. But I still care about how it affects everybody else. I still care about how it affects my wife, how it affects my kids. Honestly, if you know, with some aspects of gaming today, if I didn't have them, I probably really wouldn't play. If I didn't have the channel, I wouldn't be testing these games. I wouldn't be keeping up with the news. It's really for you guys. You guys keep me going. And I thank you for that. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think the new cost is going to be for the Switch 2? Because $450 is already really high for a lot of people. And then the software is going to be more on top of that. $60 is over. $60 games are gone. They're not coming back. And I think that's really sad. I think, yeah, base price is now going to be $70, just like Donkey Kong Bonanza. And then the premium stuff, like Mario and Legend of Zelda, or like Xenoblade, yeah, they're going to be $80 digital and $90 for a physical copy. And then we got to talk about the difference between a game cartridge and a game key. The key allows you access to download the files from the Nintendo servers to have access to the game. The files, again, are not on the cartridge. And why is that? I believe it's because, again, the file sizes are too big to fit on the cartridge. Because what happened? Well, we went from 1080p to 4K. So you got to put that data in there. Okay, so that's 4 times the amount of data right there to go to 1080 to 4. And then we added ray tracing, which is roughly another 15% of your file size. That's why when there's a patch or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, like for Xbox, like when you, let's take Black Ops 6 for example. You put in the game and it reads it that you have a Series X, and then it's like, oh, would you like the update for free? Yes. And the update is just higher resolution packaging and ray tracing. That's it. That's what it is. So when you buy it at the store, you're actually buying an Xbox One version of the game. Now for Shadows, Assassin's Creed Shadows, it only says Series X on there. So you're actually getting the entire package of all of the stuff you should be. And what's nice too with Assassin's Creed Shadows is that the disc had 86 gigs on it. Because I actually unplugged my Ethernet cord from my Xbox to install the game to see what would happen. And yeah, there's 86 gigs between the two discs. So they actually gave you the full package on Xbox, which is nice. And they paid for the two discs for the game. So I really appreciate Ubisoft for actually doing that. Credit where credit's due. And yeah, that's really nice. Same thing with Split Fiction. It's two discs. Because again, it's for Series X. And you have the ray tracing and all of that other stuff built in there. And it just doesn't fit on a 50 gig disc anymore. Now, there's 100 gig discs. But again, that's not as common. And ultimately, physical is going away anyway. So yeah, this is just... it'll eventually disappear. You know, Nintendo was the last bastion. And last year, 51% of total sales on the Switch were digital. So yeah, they flipped over too, which sucks. I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of ranting at this point. You guys are my therapy sometimes. But yeah, ultimately, it is just not better for the consumer what's going on. And yeah, we'll have to see what these tariffs do. And it's not just going to be Nintendo. It's going to be everybody else. Because now we have two things. Nintendo has now set the premium $80 price tag. So GTA 6 and other games are going to be more expensive. And then we're also having to deal with these tariffs, which Trump isn't just raising them. I mean, countries are raising him tariffs back. So this is like a new type of trade war that's going on. And yeah, this is going to be pretty wild. But yeah, it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect companies. It's going to affect everything. And I'm really curious too what's going to happen because, I mean, my company that I work for ships overseas. So yeah, there's tariffs there. I mean, we could be affected by tariffs. I could lose my job in a couple of years, 3 years. That's a possibility. I mean, we should all think about that. But yeah, if your product, if your material to do your job comes from anywhere else besides where with inside the country, which everything is basically shared now because we've had so low tariffs to everywhere, to everybody. I mean, with them all going up, it's going to affect everyone. Not just gaming. It's going to affect everything. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in to Gaming Garbage 22. You can find me over at YouTube there. You can also find me over at Twitch at Don't Tread on the... Don't forget, too, we have playlists for everything on YouTube. I got over 1,000 videos over there. I got some shorts just for some entertainment and just to get the message out sometimes about stuff. And then, yeah, I got different playthroughs. We do gaming news. We do deep dives called States of Gaming. And then there's also like game adaptations, which we're going to add Minecraft this weekend or at the beginning of next week. And yeah, there's a bunch on there. So go ahead and poke around. Thanks for listening. Thank you guys, too, for just being a part of the channel. It's been a blast doing this. And you guys truly are the reason why I do this. The reception that I get back, the views that I get, the engagement, the comments, the likes when you share. I just appreciate it all. It's just cool because we're building a small community here. Is it really slow? Yeah. It's really slow, but I'm also not willing to compromise the channel for the sake of, goldfish entertainment, brain rot. I'm just not for that. I'm really not. I actually want to be intelligent and really make content worth viewing. And again, it's not for everybody, but it's also why it's multifaceted on the channel. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one.